Hey guys. Okay, so we talked about 2-point perspective, where you're always going to have a corner facing us, or facing you. But the thing about 2-point perspective is that there is actually such a thing as using multiple sets of vanishing points. So right now, I want you to just look around your space, wherever you're watching this video in, and if you notice that, like, a book on your floor is sitting at one angle and your trash can is sitting near it at a different angle, maybe another book is sitting a different way, or a piece of paper. What you are actually noticing is that all of these different objects sitting at different angles in your room, are using all different sets of vanishing points. And what this actually does is create life in a scene. So we'll talk about this more in class a little bit, but when you have 1-point perspective, everything is just going to use that single vanishing point, whether it is in the middle of the picture plane, whether it is off to the left or the right, it is still only using that 1 point. 2-point, totally different. You can have multiple sets of 2 points, multiple sets of vanishing points in 2-point perspective. So I'm going to show you an example of this with the idea of using books. Now, the key thing to keep in mind, and we will talk about this more in class, the key thing to keep in mind when you have multiple sets of vanishing points is that you are going to keep your points all at the same distance between them. So what I want you to notice right here, I'm going to switch to red. What I want you to notice right here is that this point and this point are about 18 squares between each other. I'm using my drawing guide just so you guys can see this. This point and this point are equally the same distance between this point and this point, even though you can tell there's not the same space here. Between this point and this last one over here, there is the same space. Now, the reason for that is that you would never have something where, say you had your horizon line up here, you would never have it where there was a vanishing point here, and then a vanishing point in between the two of them. So in other words, you're never going to do this. I'm about to draw you guys a really fish-eyed lens view. Okay, there's our box in 2-point perspective, very similar to what you guys just saw in our previous video. So you would never do this, okay? Let's switch to a different color so you guys can just see me a little bit better. Actually, let's make that a little bit darker. You're not going to do this. I want you to watch how I'm putting this box in between these two. I'll zoom in on this a little bit just so you guys can see. What I want you to notice is that the angle of this box right here suddenly became a lot sharper, as if it were in a fisheye field of view, as compared to this box. Okay, now what you can do, and what we're going to do in my demonstration below, my demonstration here, what you can do is have your boxes using the different vanishing point sets, as long as those vanishing point sets are not in between each other, and as long as they are all the same distance, equidistance from each other, okay? Now, the other no-no with multiple sets of vanishing points, and this does get a little confusing when we're doing all our lines, the other no-no is it's a set, y'all. Let me give you another one. Okay, you are never going to do this, right? You're never going to go, woo. I'm just going to use all the vanishing points on the page. I'm going to use every vanishing point. Like that. Okay? We never do that. We're always going to keep a point on the left and a point on the right for each of our boxes. So I'm going to start out. I've got my 3 corners right here. Like I said, we're going to think about this as if it were a stack of books. Okay, so you guys see my 3 corners right here. Now, just to kind of speed it up a little bit, I have already drawn the lines. I'm just going to walk you through these layer by layer. You won't have to actually sit here and watch me draw them. So these are vanishing lines for our first corner that you saw. And what I want you to notice, again, I'm belaboring the point, I'm going right here and right here, okay? So our bottom box is using our outer set of points, okay? Then we're going to go to our next corner, so the one in the middle. There it is right there. What you guys should be able to see on this one is that our middle box is using the middle set of vanishing points. Now, as I'm approaching the horizon line, obviously what's happening is the top of my box is starting to flatten out. And then finally, let's get to our top box, which is using the farthest right set of vanishing points. So we've got here and here. I'm going to turn off these other 2 just for a minute. You guys should be able to see how our top box uses that outer set of vanishing points. Now, how does this all kind of combine together? Let's turn on our boxes as if they were our books. What you should be able to see off of each one of these, while I've got my my green guiding lines, my green vanishing lines turned off, what you should be able to see is that each one of these books is turned slightly. So if we were to see this in an overhead view, what you would be seeing, okay, we just moved the camera into an overhead view, y'all. What we would be seeing is this. Each set of books, each book is turned ever so slightly. Actually, it may not even be that slight. That's pretty different. But it would be something like this. And what that's doing, what I want you to notice, is that if these were our corners right here, corner, 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 right? Each one of these, this goes back to a vanishing line. This goes back to a vanishing point here. And here again, we're looking at this in a top angle. This goes to a vanishing line right here, vanishing point, vanishing point. This goes to a vanishing point right here, vanishing point, vanishing point. Okay, now I was not super careful. Obviously, I was not even using the straightening line to get those lined up. So a couple of our vanishing points are too close together, but hopefully you can see my point, which is that all of these start to move as the book turns. It moves this way and then this way, while these vanishing points move this way and this way. These vanishing lines do that. Okay, so let's just get rid of this guy for a second. Turn him off. Oops, get rid of him again. There we go. Now, you may think, okay, I've got my books lined up here. Well, what if I want to do another book, right, where maybe the corner of the book is right here, but I want it to use the same vanishing points as these 2 out here. Is that possible? Can I do that? And the answer to that is yes, but what you need to realize is that your book is going to be incredibly foreshortened this way. It's basically going to be sitting at the same angle as this top book. It's just that this side is going to be incredibly foreshortened, okay? So it's almost as if this book were a lot, you would do this if this book were actually a lot bigger than this book right here, okay? Because it's still using these same vanishing points. But if the corner is way over here, what it means is that this side of the book, you know, is a lot taller than this side of this book, okay, which is what's pushing the corner so far over to your left. So just to get an idea of what that looks like, here's one that I did right here. So you can see I've got my corner in right here, okay, and I went ahead and used those 2 farthest right points, right, and then this is what this guy looks like drawn in, just like that, right. And so if I go back for a minute, let's actually maybe color him in a little bit. So I don't necessarily want to erase my book right there. Just kind of drop this down. Whoop, nope, not that. Come here, guy. Drop this down right here. There we go. Okay, so what you should be able to see here is that this book, this top book that I now have, and this book, the book that was our top book, they are actually on the same angle, okay? But this book is just much bigger, like much longer this way. If they were standing on a shelf together, they would be something like this. Okay, they're just that much bigger, but they're actually laying at the same angle on the pile of books. Okay, so that's a little bit of how you do 2-point perspective with multiple sets of vanishing points. We are going to do an assignment about this in class, so you'll have a chance to practice in class.